James Madison was delegate to the Congress of Confederation, the U.S. House of Representatives from Virginia, then the Secretary of State appointed by Thomas Jefferson. He is also considered the father of the Constitution.
I'm Alexa Mann.
I'm Callie Cobb.
I'm Lauren Rothstein.
I'm Heather Hurlbutt.
I'm McLean Jazzo.
And I'm Kimberly Messmer.
Tecumseh, a Shawnee leader, along with his brother, known as the Prophet, led a group of northwestern tribes to unite together to form a confederacy. Here is some footage along with fellow reporter Kimberly Messmer with a previous interview of Tecumseh.
The battle on November 7th that people are calling the Battle of Tippecanoe. The battle was between Shawnee leader Tecumseh with Native American warriors and William Henry Harrison with his army. Tecumseh was fed up with the whites occupying their land and continuing to expand. As a result, they built a new native settlement in which became known as Prophet's Town. This village became important because Tecumseh used the village to rally tribes east of the Mississippi. They hoped that this would put an end to the expansion of white settlements. I'm here now with Tecumseh to get some of our questions answered. Hello! How did William Harrison respond to this rally?
Well, he was afraid that my Confederacy was quickly strengthening, so he decided to strike with 1,000 men while I was not in the area.
Since you were not in the area, who took over?
My brother prepared my men with fire oratory, which included promises that they could not be shot at with Harrison's men until I returned. Harrison's soldiers were attacked, though, on the early morning of November 7th. The natives were forced to flee after a 2-hour fight, and our village was destroyed.
What happened when you returned?
Well, my brother was discredited as a leader, because I specifically told him not to fire, to hold fire until I returned.
Thank you, Tecumseh. Back to you.
Tecumseh was later killed in the War of 1812, fighting for the British.
I'm here with Dolly Madison, just days after she saved our national documents from the fire in the White House. Dolly, how'd you get the bravery to save these items?
You know, Heather, it took a lot of my courage to stay in that building. But when I thought about the national documents, I knew that I just had to stay and make sure they weren't burned.
Well, I'm sure people will be thanking you for a long time. This is not the first instance of your courage, though. Tell us about the orphanage that you're sponsoring in New York City.
Yeah, so I'm sponsoring an orphanage for girls in New York City. As a First Lady, I feel I could give exposure to a good cause. These orphan girls really need help, and I can be the one to help them.
Thank you, Dolly. Now back to Alexa in the newsroom.
Moments ago, the Treaty of Ghent was signed, which signifies the end of the War of 1812. Now we go out to Heather live on the battlefield for a recap.
2.5 years ago, James Madison declared war against Britain due to trade conflicts and pressure from the war-hot congressmen. New England and the Middle colonies opposed the war, but the southern colonies in the West supported it. The British had many early victories, such as Fort Dearborn and Detroit, but Madison was still re-elected mid-war. When the war-opposed Federalists began to help in the war effort, the United States finally began to gain some victories. Americans burned the city of York and won several battles at sea. At the Battle of Thames in Canada, Americans defeated British and Native American forces and killed Tecumseh. The British made one final push by seizing and burning Washington, D.C.
We'll be back after these commercial interruptions.
Are you tired of making your own clothing?
Am I?
Well, come on down to Francis Lowell's new Lowell Mill.
Making clothes for my kids used to be time-consuming and hard.
But now,
It was so quick and easy.
The Lowell Mill. So much fabric, so little time.
hey guys, it's that time of year again. Introducing Now, That's What I Call Presidents, for James Madison, including such hits as The Star-Spangled Banner, Good Golly, Miss Dolly, The Lowell Mills Blues, Just Can't Get Enough, The Father of the Constitution, 5-4, Out to War, and by far the biggest hit of the presidency, The Battle of New Orleans. The British wanted to separate Louisiana from the rest of the colonies. The British targeted a small town just outside of New Orleans. The battle only took a half an hour.
And the British kept a-coming. There wasn't as many as there was a while ago.
Talking with Lauren. I'm Lauren and I will be your host today. Today we're talking about the Treaty of Ghent. We have our first caller, Mr. Longclaw from the Ohio River Valley. Oh! Hello. Hello, Mr. Longclaw. What do you have to say about the treaty?
British had it right all these years ago with the proclamation. We Indians have always pulled the short stick, and the Treaty of Ghent is no exception.
Next, we have George Maxwell, a merchant that ships fur out of Great Lakes. How are you doing, Mr. Maxwell?
Not so well, Lauren. This treaty doesn't even address my worst grievance, being a merchant captain. There is not a single mention of British impressment in all of the treaty, which was one of the main causes of the war. The British still can legally force us to serve in their navy.
Well, I take your concerns to heart. Thanks for calling. Our next caller is ringing in all the way from Russia. Hello, Ivan. What do you think of the treaty?
Yes, well, I'm in favor of this treaty. However, I wish it would have happened much earlier. We have already defeated Napoleon, so we don't even need the British soldiers anymore. But it's good that the British aren't distracted by the Americans anymore.
Well, I wish you luck on that. Thank you for calling. And it looks like that's... Oh! Looks like we have another caller. Hello, what's your name?
Mom, hurry home now. Grandpa's been in the bathtub for 3 hours. There's blood everywhere. Mom, hurry, come.
I think you might have the wrong number. Well, that's all the time we have today. Join us next time on
Talking with Lauren.
Breaking news from the White House. With the excess amount of inexpensive goods being shipped to the U.S. from Britain, American mill workers are having trouble selling their products. Kentucky Congressman Henry Clay has come up with a plan to save our economy, and he calls it the American System. This system will provide for a 20-year charter for the Second United States National Bank, funding for the building of national roads and canals, and a tariff that will help promote American industry.
Here we are with the one and only General Andrew Jackson. General Jackson, thank you for joining us today. You're welcome. So tell me, this Battle of New Orleans, you've become a national hero. How does that feel?
It's not so much how I feel that we beat those damn Brits.
Okay, so tell me, this all went down January 8th, 1815?
Yes, the battle only took a half hour. The British started to come, and they came in 2 waves. But our 4,500 men, which not only were the army, but also militiamen from the surrounding areas, pirates, and even the free black men. We took care of those Brits in a half hour.
Hey, what's wrong with your hair?
Why I oughta?
So, Mr. Jackson, what was the outcome of this battle?
Well, out of our 4,500 men, only about 50 were injured and only 13 killed, as compared to the British, 300 killed and 1,200 injured.
The Treaty of Ghent already occurred on?
Funny you mentioned that. Well, the Treaty of Ghent, which ended the War of 1812, was actually signed 2 weeks prior to this battle, but we didn't hear about it. So it didn't have any effect for the outcome of the war, but it sure was a pride and confidence booster for this great nation.
Well, that's all the time we have, so back to you.
Now an update from an earlier story. The American system, although may have led to some many great things like canals and a national road, and also a mass economy, where the North and the South ship all of their products out to the West, but it has also caused South Carolina to potentially secede from the Union.
I'm here live at the Hartford Convention. Currently, delegates from Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Vermont are discussing their grievances about the ongoing War of 1812 and political problems arising from the government's increasing power. This all began by Federalist opposition to James Madison's mercantile policies in the War of 1812. Other things that are currently on the list to talk about are removing the Three-Fifths Compromise because they claim that it gives slave states too much power in Congress. They also have discussed their grievances with the Louisiana Purchase and the embargo of 1807. This convention should last a few weeks. Back to you.
We'll be back next week with another edition of 60 Minutes. And join us all this week on the CBS Evening News.